Well, hello and welcome to this session of ExecuNet Master Class. I'm your host, Tony Vlahos, and my guest this hour is best-selling author Mr. Dan Schawbel. In this high-tech, highly socially networked age, you'd wonder how anyone could ever feel lonely. But is our heavy use of technology to communicate making us, well, lonely and disengaged at work and in our everyday lives? Dan will talk to us about this and outline things that we as leaders can do to create a workplace where people feel genuinely connected, engaged, and empowered without relying too much on technology. Pretty important stuff, and part of our commitment here at ExecuNet to connect you with trusted advisors like Dan, who you can count on to create the transformative results you want in your career, at work, and in your everyday life. Well, I am really happy to bring on today's guest. Dan Schawbel is a New York Times bestselling author. He's partner and research director at Future Workplace and the founder of both Millennial Branding and WorkplaceTrends.com. He's written two bestselling career books, Promote Yourself and Me 2.0. His third book, upon which he's based today's session, is titled Back to Human: How Great Leaders Create Connection in the Age of Isolation. It is a wonderful read, and I totally recommend it. With that, welcome, Dan, to the ExecuNet stage. They are all yours.
Thanks, Tony. I really appreciate it. And I love working with you as well. Technology has connected us like never before, but at the same time, we feel more isolated and lonely when we overuse and misuse it. And I feel this way too. Living in New York City with over 1.6 million people, you can be anywhere, like a subway or walking on the street or even in a physical office space, and feel like you're around everyone and no one at the same time because people are physically there, but they're not mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. There's a recent study by Cigna of 20,000 adults, and they found that half of Americans are lonely and 40% lack meaningful relationships. I interviewed the former U.S. Surgeon General, and he calls this the loneliness epidemic, and that loneliness has the same health risks and reduction of lifespan as smoking 15 cigarettes each day. This is the great illusion of connection. We think technology is going to solve all of our problems. We think it's going to create stronger bonds, yet many times they're weaker ties. We think that we're going to be more productive when using it, but sometimes it's counterproductive and highly distracting. We have replaced voicemails with text messages. Text messages are now the default protocol for how we communicate. We're spending so much time looking down at a device instead of at another human being. And we tap our devices over 2,600 times a day. We look at our phones every 12 minutes, and we send an average of 5 texts within a business meeting. So it's kind of crazy what we're doing here. And it's affecting all of us regardless of where we live and work. And it does a lot to our brain. Our brain is addicted to the technology. Every time we hear an alert or we see a notification on our phone, it activates our reward system in our brain and releases dopamine. And we want more and more of it, much like any drug or even a slot machine in a casino. And the more we're using this technology, the more we're addicted to it. We like the convenience of it, and we start to depend on it for everything. And it's really isolated us from the very people that we need to connect with at work and at home. Another survey found that half of US adults would rather break a bone than their phone. As crazy as that seems, I was on a trip to Peru with one of my friends, and we took a cab to a hotel, and the cab left, and my friend realized, oh my God, the phone is still in the cab. And so it was like he was mourning a loved one, not having his phone. And for me, it was awful because I had to take pictures the whole time and keep on texting it to him and emailing it to him because he couldn't do it himself. So he actually, it was the best thing that's happened to him because he could live in the moment while I was the one who was on the phone most of the time. I interviewed 100 top young leaders, and they describe technology in this way. It's a double-edged sword. It can be good or bad depending on how, when, and where you're using it. It can lead to more human interaction. It can remove the work and the tasks that we don't even want to do. Yet it can also isolate us from people we need to connect with and make our lives and workplaces more dysfunctional.